It's here, guys. Finally, I can start building stands. This is where the fish room really starts to come together, and it means a lot of work for me. But there's nothing wrong with a lot of work as long as it comes with fish. So, I'm going to go ahead and get started. We're going to be moving tanks, building stands, and pretty much doing this as fast as possible, while of course maintaining solid build structure and all that good stuff. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in a minute. And welcome back. So I got the saw set up. I started cutting some of the wood I'm going to need for the 40 breeder rack that I'm building. So let's take a look. There you go. It's going to hold 3 tanks. So I just framed it out to make sure my measurements were all good and cut the center supports, because I will put a center support in each one. It's not necessary for a tank the size of a 40 breeder, but I do like it just as a little bit of extra safety. Because the last thing you want is one of these stands falling apart on you, and it sends your tank crashing down, your fish die, busted a tank, glass and water all over the floor. That's not a good time. It's not a good day. Alright, so I'm almost done. I only have to cut the actual support boards and the boards that are going to frame it, and we'll come back when all that's done and we start putting it together. You'll have to forgive me for the wind noise today, guys. It's pretty windy. But real quick, I kind of wanted to show you how the stand works, so you kind of understand the mechanical side of it, I guess from the engineering standpoint. So, this is the outside board. This is the guide board. This doesn't actually hold any weight. All it does is hold this board in place, okay? So, we always want to make sure that the part of the board that the tank is going to sit on, which in this case is this 40-inch piece because it is a 40 breeder, is the part that's going to be in here and held up. Okay, so what'll happen, this part will be built like this. So we always want the widthwise board on the inside. We don't want it on the outside, because if it's on the outside, what happens is the width board is, and I'll show you the example. Alright, so then the width board is what is holding the weight, or is what the width board is where the weight will be held. But there's nowhere for a tank to go there, right? Because the tank is going to be sitting long ways. It's a 40 breeder. This board is only 15¼ inches long, and that is just enough when wedged in between two of these 2x4s, which are 1.5 inches wide. That is 18¼ inches, which is the exact width of a 40 breeder. So that corner piece is what is going to sit in there. That will hold the weight. So all the weight will be on this little corner of the 2x4 that is more than enough to hold a tank the size of a 40 breeder. So I've got all my lumber cut. Now it's time to put this bad boy together. Before we put the stand together, I real quick wanted to show you guys what I picked up yesterday. So this is an old slate bottom steel frame tank. This one is a 75 gallon, so it's 4 foot by 18½ inches. The thing about these is almost always the slate has to be replaced with glass because it's been cracked. This is the original slate in this tank and not a crack to be found. So this is going to be a little side project for me. I want to clean it up, get it shining up real nice, get it all cleaned out and sealed up. Then we'll fill it up with water. I just want to show you guys that because it's really cool. They're pretty rare. They're not made anymore. And these tanks look really, really nice when they're cleaned up. Now, before I go ahead and put all of this together, I wanted to talk real quick about the screws. So these are 2.5-inch exterior deck screws, and these are Phillips head. Originally, I started off using 3-inch screws. They're a little too long, and they split the wood more often than not. Now, that said, I drill pilot holes for every screw I put in to avoid splitting the wood. Another thing you can do, and then this is what I recommend, and if I could find my star bit I would be doing myself, is to use self-tapping screws. They have kind of like the drill end on the screw, and it will bore the hole while you're, putting the screw in. And then you can avoid drilling the pilot holes. You just have to go a little bit slower. So, yep, that's what we're using for screws. Got my handy dandy cordless drill here. I do have to go take my dog to a vet appointment, but once I get back, we will resume putting this stand together. Alright guys, so we're ready to start putting the stand together. So I'm just going to show you one of the three rectangles that we're going to use to set the tanks on. And then we'll come back and I'll show you the full assembly. So that way you have a really good idea of how to build an aquarium stand. That way if you want to build your own, it's really, really simple. Just a quick note, these are just regular 2x4s. They're nothing crazy. They're not pressure treated or anything like that. So you just need the regular 2x4s from Home Depot, and those will suffice just fine. So let's go ahead. So the first thing we're going to do is drill pilot holes. Alright, so these pilot holes will keep the wood from splitting when we're putting our screws in. There you go, 2 pilot holes on each side. And that's our second board done. So what we want to do next is put the small board that's going to give us the width that we need. Now we want to make sure that when we're doing this, everything is nice and level. We don't want any kind of wackiness going on. So what I like to do is set it up on some other boards that keep it about level. That way it's nice and easy and it's got something to rest on. And then we're just going to make sure that this board and that board are flush. Now another thing too is you probably want to start your screws before you get to this point. It's just a little bit easier. And then always, always, always double check and make sure that it is nice and even. You don't want to have to take this apart once you've put everything together and set a tank on it, only to find out that it's not straight. Alright, so first one done. We'll flip it over and we'll do the other side. And then we'll just take our other 40-inch board, set it right up here, do the same thing, nice and level. So we have one part of the tank stand. This is where the tank is going to sit. Now I just need to go ahead and do that 2 more times, and then we'll come back when we're at the next step and we're kind of putting everything together. Alright, so we've got all 3 of the boxes that we need built. You can see them right behind me. There's another one right here. So the next thing we need to do is drill the pilot holes for our guide. So this is what we are going to attach to the outside of all of these rectangles that we built. This is what is going to allow us, let me adjust the camera here. So the guide board is going to go on the outside like this. It's going to be drilled right into that. This is going to be our weight bearing board. So the guide needs to go in, and then we can put these in. Okay? So after these are in, all 4 sides, then we can set our second rectangle up, put our next weight bearing boards in, and then we can put the final rectangle in. So after we're done with that, the stand's done. Some black paint real quick, and it's good to go. It's all done. So I'm going to drill these pilot holes real quick, and we'll come back once I'm putting everything together. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and install our first guide board. This is not my favorite part, because there's a lot of room to make it crooked, not even, all that good stuff, but it's easily fixed later. When I do this, I never put in all the screws until I'm done. I will drill all the pilot holes, and as you can see here, I have all 5 of my screws started. But I will only sink down 1 or 2, because you'll probably need to adjust it once it's all put together, just to adjust for anything that wasn't level, to straighten them out if maybe they went on a little crooked during this part. Just save yourself the time, only take 1 or 2 screws and put them in. That way you have a much easier time later on. So again, as even as possible, with the other boards as flat as possible, as level as possible. All you gotta do is get it to stay on there for now. Like I said, it's easily adjustable later. Alright, so I put 2 screws in. We're gonna do this 3 more times. But before we do that, I do want to show you the weight bearing boards, and we'll put those in now. That way I don't have to come back and record it later. Alright, so the weight bearing board is going to sit just like this. It is going to go flush with this 2x4. Alright, so you should have pilot holes drilled here so you can go ahead and put your screws in. You can go either side. You can either do it from this way, or you can do it from this way. Generally, I will sink at least 1 screw this way, and then the rest on this side, just to kind of have the, I don't know, counter thread. I don't know the word to use to describe that. But I like it to make sure that they hold together, and that way they stick. Alright, so you can see that we have all 4 of the weight supporting boards in, as well as the guides. So what we can do now is actually put in the second shelf where the tank stands are going to sit. Alright. Man, I'm getting better at this. See, it fits in there pretty nice. So all we're going to do is on this side of the board, drill some more pilot holes and sink some more screws. It's not weight bearing, at least the screws aren't, so we don't have to worry about jamming, 5 or 10 screws in there. We can generally, I'll do 3. I'll do like a triangle pattern. So we'll go ahead, we'll get those up, we'll get the last weight bearing boards in, the last shelf, and we'll be all done. This is really easy, so if you guys want to give it a shot at home, by all means. It does take practice to get everything right, and I didn't learn how to do this overnight. The first stand I built was absolutely awful. The boards were bowed, nothing sat straight, it was terrible. So I ended up scrapping the entire thing and starting over. But with practice, I've gotten much, much better. And you can see what I was talking about. So the tank is going to sit across here. Glass aquariums, the weight is all on the corners. So when pushing down, the weight is going to transfer down and down. Okay? So again, this board, the short board, will always go on the inside. If it's going on the outside, all of your weight is on the screws, and you don't want to do that. 2x4s have a huge load capacity compared to any type of screws you can buy. So unless you're using lag bolts for small tanks, you definitely want to build them this way. Alright, we had to move into the garage. It's getting dark outside, but we're putting in our center braces. This isn't really going to hold the tank. What it's going to do, though, is keep these boards from bowing out. In the event that one of these boards bowed out, odds are we're going to lose the tank, and we want to avoid that at all costs. So we're just going to put in the center braces for all 3 of these, and then we'll be all done. Now the stand is completely finished. So I got my center braces in, all 3 of them, and the stand is done. It is level, everything went together nicely, and I have to say, out of all the stands I've built, this has probably been the easiest. Thanks in part to the miter saw, but also because I've had a lot of practice. You see, this stand is built almost identically. The only difference is the center supports run the other way, and that is because the tanks rest long ways instead of front facing. Now on both of these, you'll notice this little overhang here. This is to prevent a tank from somehow sliding off the stand if something were to hit it, bump it, knock it, whatever. This little lip prevents that from happening. And I built this stand the exact same way, as well as the 90-gallon stand over here. Same thing. It's got this little lip, which the tank rests nicely in, and it completely prevents any tanks from ever sliding off the top rung of the stand. But I hope you guys, found today's video useful. If you want to build your own fish tank stand, they're really easy to do, and that whole stand probably cost, if we don't count the miter saw or the drill, I don't know, 30 bucks, maybe less, probably less. I think I used like, probably like 9 or 10 2x4s at $4. Alright, so 40 bucks. So about 40 bucks to hold, to build a 40 breeder stand that'll hold 3 tanks safely, very safely. So if you're interested in building your own stands, if you have any questions, if there's something that you don't think I addressed, let me know down below and I'll do my best to answer any questions that you might have. But thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you found it useful. I really hope you found it entertaining. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. We passed 700. I want 1,000 so bad. And we are getting there, guys. We are really getting there. So thank you guys so much. As always, stay safe. Have a great day.